August brings the goods right from the very beginning as Mercury slows down and stations retrograde on Monday, August 5th. This retrograde will last until August 28th and will cover two signs, Virgo and Leo. We will get a chance to ask some practical questions, rethink our routines, and make tangible changes to become the best versions of ourselves. Let's take a closer look and break it down. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. Welcome to my channel if you're new. If you like my work and you've been here a while, please show your support by leaving a like or a comment, subscribing, and pressing the notification bell. You can watch another one of my videos. Anything you do helps my channel grow, brings more audience my way. Thank you for that. Additionally, you can say thank you by buying me a coffee, a croissant, a tea, whatever your heart desires. I appreciate everyone who takes advantage of that option. And before we dive in, if you're looking for a personal consultation, you have questions about your natal chart, your year to come, or your relationship, you can book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also find candles and oils I create. In this video, I'd like to highlight my Mercury in Virgo candle. This one captures Mercury in rulership direct while the moon is waxing, helping you gain clarity, focus, precision, and it also helps with writing, it helps with speech. I use it all the time during the retrograde. It sort of helps get rid of all the noise and all the confusion and uncertainty, especially when I have to write horoscopes for you guys or, write my content, prep for anything, speak. This is absolutely my top choice for the retrogrades. Together with Mercury Cazimi. Mercury Cazimi is a more recent creation. This one smells like coffee and it's decorated with emerald stones, which are the stones of Mercury. And this one captures Mercury in Gemini, which is also really good at communicating, but maybe a little bit more focused on brainstorming ideas, coming up with alternative options and solutions. And this is also a great choice for Mercury retrograde and can help you navigate the miscommunications, misunderstandings. And in general, anyone who's born with Mercury retrograde, because you tend to be a very sort of deep thinker, but maybe sometimes struggle verbalizing your feelings and your thoughts. If your Mercury's in the 6th, 8th, or 12th houses, if it's conjoining, squaring, or opposing Saturn, this could be the candle for you. Oh, and also if you're born with Mercury in Pisces or Sagittarius, which are the signs of detriment. Because in the land of Jupiter, a mercurial analysis fails a little bit. So let's talk about Mercury retrograde. This one is interesting because it covers two signs, right? It's always a bit more unique when we have Mercury retrograding between two signs. In general, Mercury is the planet of communication. Mercury is the messenger. Astronomically, it's the planet closest to the sun. So astrologically, it's always been the planet that almost kind of like delivers the message of the sun, right? In Greco-Roman myth, Mercury was connected to Hermes, the only planet that could travel both to the heaven, to the Olympus, and then to the underworld. And so Mercury has that ability to be like flexible, to be adaptable, to help us express our like under feelings and our upper feelings and verbalize things. And Mercury rules the 3 C's, which are communication, commerce, and commuting. So when Mercury goes retrograde, all of those natural processes of exchanging information, conversing, commuting, slow down. Or there might be some glitches, right? All of that is meant to show us where adjustments need to be made. So it's not, Mercury retrograde is never like a bad thing. Plus the retrograde is not, it's a perceived motion of Mercury backwards because the planet never actually moves backwards. So because it's that perceived sort of transit, it also is very internalized, I think, on many levels. It's not like sometimes the changes that are happening are not like super visible. They tend to become more visible when Mercury goes direct, but because it's moving backwards, a lot of changes happening in our minds. And then when the planet is direct, it becomes more official. So this retrograde lasts between August 5th and August 28th, and it starts at 4 degrees 6 minutes Virgo, and then goes into 21, travels all the way until 21 degrees 24 minutes Leo. So of course, you know, it's gonna affect you more if you have planets between 21 and 29 degrees Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Taurus. Or if you have planets between 0 and 4 degrees Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Gemini, because then Mercury will be aspecting your planets. And so with Mercury aspecting your planets, you want to look at the planet and what it represents. Like if it aspects your Venus, it's likely to be about beauty, style, aesthetics, relationships, connection. And then you want to look at the house Venus is placed in and the houses Venus rules, because if Venus also rules your house of education, Mercury aspecting Venus might also bring up topics involving education or travel or legal matters. So the retrograde begins in Virgo between August 5th and August 14th. It's retrograde in Virgo, which is not too bad. Mercury rules Virgo. It's exalted in Virgo. So it's, you know, yes, it slows down and it has an element of uncertainty, but maybe it's the time you rewrite some of your work. You take that analytical, practical, Virgoan approach to editing the paper you've been writing for your class, right? Or you are maybe doing some research at the best doctors, or you are making, like, I don't know, phone calls to fix up your piping issue or something, or your bathroom issue. Virgo is very practical. Virgo is very routine oriented, very helpful, very humble energy. But the fact that Mercury then enters Leo, and between August 14th and 28th, it will be retrograde in Leo, makes me wonder that, like, maybe you're making some practical changes and you're being sort of, you know, very hardworking so that you can get to the place of spotlight and recognition, and so that you can become the best version of yourself. It's sort of like, you know, what practical changes need to be made to help you reach the stage you're moving towards, right? It's like, get the car serviced, book the tickets, do the research so that Mercury and Leo can get to the stage and sing a song type of energy. So with Mercury retrograde going into Leo between August 14th, 28th, you might notice that your ego becomes a little bit stronger, that you become more self-oriented, more sort of power-oriented. You may be questioning inspiration in your life. You're maybe more focused on whether you're getting the recognition you want and need, and maybe having a little bit more conversations around, like, what makes you happy. You know, like Virgo is a bit more, let's fix this, that Virgo part, let's fix this, let's figure it out, versus Leo is a little bit more, I feel this way, you do things. So to make sure that you're not being too proud and cocky in the process, just make sure that you're, like, keeping full picture in mind. The shadow period, which is the time when Mercury enters the degrees that it will later retrograde over, started on July 17th. And so it goes from July 17th until August 5th when Mercury goes retrograde. And then between August 28th when Mercury stations direct and September 12th, it's the other side of the shadow. And the shadow period means that, you know, in the beginning, this period from July 17th until August 5th might be giving you clues on what the retrograde will be about. And then the second half, like the period after the retrograde is over, might be the time when you're putting finishing touches and getting clarity and answers. Some dates that are worth mentioning: August 7th, Mercury conjoins Venus, helping you verbalize your affection, talk about feelings, maybe like talk about things in a charming way. So it could be a good time, a couple of days before, a couple of days after, to write someone a letter, to send a message, to send an email you wanted to send, because it will have that kind of soft and kind, gentle Venusian touch. August 14th, Mercury re-enters Leo. Mercury will stay here retrograde until the 28th and then direct until September 9th. So Mercury in Leo, like I mentioned, is a lot more loud, a lot more self-driven, a little bit more dramatic, but also funny and good at telling stories, charismatic. So that is good. On the 18th of August, Mercury squares Uranus, which is like a mini breakthrough. It might bring important revelations, discoveries. What's interesting is right after that, also on the 18th of August, we get Mercury cazimi in Leo. So we have some kind of surprise light bulb moment, and we get an insight. We experience a breakthrough. We experience a change. The cazimi is always beautiful for downloads and for journaling and jotting down your ideas, because it's one moment in the retrograde when things feel a bit more coherent. There might be more answers. August 24th, Mercury sextiles Mars, which helps you, on a physical level. Mars always rules sort of physicality, so it can help you be more like agile and gives you good reflexes, but it can also help you speak up, take action, do sort of manual labor and negotiate, things like that. And then on the 28th, Mercury goes direct. As always, retrograde is the time to double check everything. Allow yourself extra time. If you're traveling, if you have a flight at 5, don't leave the house at 4. Make sure you're giving yourself at least 2 hours for sort of big journeys. Get the batteries, read through the emails you're sending, the texts you're sending, because the classic mishap of Mercury retrograde is sending a message to someone you're talking about, but also think happy thoughts and say nice things. So if you are saying something nice and you're sending it to the person you're saying it about, they will not feel betrayed or surprised. So, and also look at this as an opportunity to review things, right? Like, it's a lot of our life depends on our attitude about things. So if we focus on how Mercury retrograde is cramping our style, I don't know if the kids these days say it, but like if we focus on the negatives, then life is more likely to bring us the confirmations of our thoughts. So if you try to focus on Mercury retrograde being the chance for you to slow down, then it doesn't have to be as difficult. As always, if you're looking for more and you'd like to know what the retrograde and anything else means for you, book a reading on my website, AnastasiaDoesAstrology.com. And let's take a look at the 12 rising signs. Starting with Aries rising, Mercury begins its retrograde in your 6th house and then goes back into your 5th house. So there could be two separate things, right? There could be two separate areas of your life you are reviewing. So until the 14th of August, maybe you need to take care of your health. Maybe there is some sort of, like exam, like, I don't know, doctor's exams. Is that what you call it? Doctor's tests? Tests. Like you're getting some results, you're rethinking your health, your diet, your exercise routine. Maybe you're redoing some work projects or addressing some slowdowns at work or involving work, right? The retrograde in the 6th house could also suggest that you're going back to some project that maybe you thought were done, or going back to a job that you once were at. Like healing old wounds on some level. And then the retrograde in the 5th house between the 14th and the 28th of August could bring up romantic questions. An ex might come into your life between the 14th and the 28th. There might be matters involving children you need to rethink, like a child maybe, is doing some kind of project and they need your help with it, or you're trying to figure out the school for your child, you're getting some kind of supplies and things like that. Romantic, children, questions of pleasure, questions of maybe like feeling like there's not much romance in your life and what can be done to improve that. With Mercury retrograde in the 5th house, you're kind of trying to figure out what gets you going, what gets you excited. So maybe it's an opportunity to like remember what once attracted you to your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend, your significant other, or even remember what used to get you excited. And if we're looking at the two as a unity, right? Like we start in the 6th house, we go into the 5th house. What practical changes do you need to make to your work routine, to your health, to your diet, to your service to others, to your commitments, so that you can have more fun in your life, right? Like what kind of problems do you still need to solve? What sort of cleansing and release and emptying you need to do at work, in health, with like legal matters, with any problems you're solving, so that your life can be more fun and more pleasant and more pleasurable. Maybe it involves wrapping up a relationship with an ex, right? We're going from the 6th house of work into the 5th house of romance. Like maybe it's a colleague that you have like a weird on and off relationship with. Maybe it's time to wrap that up. Or maybe it's time to pay off some bills. Maybe it's time to take care of your health and release some things from your schedule, or even like, I don't know, invest some time into finding a personal trainer so that you don't have to worry about, like, I don't know, setting up your exercise routine every day. Let me know how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to look at your natal chart, talk about your year to come or your relationship. Now, if you are a Taurus rising, the retrograde begins in your 5th house and then ends in your 4th house. And so, you know, if we talk about the retrograde as like one storyline going from the 5th into the 4th, there might be, you know, 5th house represents pleasure, romance, children. 4th house represents home, family, living situation. So if it's like a one storyline, right? Like you're thinking of how can you modify your home? How can you maybe change your relationships with family in order to have more joy, in order to get, sorry about that, in order to get ready for a child coming, right? Or in order to have sort of, honestly, it's interesting because it starts in the 5th house. 5th house is the place of sex. So I can also even see like building like a sex dungeon. Maybe I shouldn't be saying it, but like, you know, like sort of, maybe it's not sex, but you're adding some kind of space into your house. You're like redesigning, redecorating with the underlying thought of like having more fun, having space to not have your child run into your room, right? Like have some kind of like element of separation. Maybe you're building an exercise studio or an art studio in your home as well. Maybe you're like rethinking family dynamics because also like you have a child coming and you want to make sure that you kind of get clear on what your parenting strategy is going to be like. There can also be like two separate parts to this retrograde between the 4th and 14th of August. It's retrograde in the 5th. And that could be the time when you're dealing with an ex, someone from your past knocks on your door or you reach out to the ex. As always, be careful, make sure it's worth your time and energy. A lot of times it's not, but if you have some unprocessed sort of feelings that you want to get closure, maybe do it, right? But like the retrograde in the 5th could be the time you're like dealing with past relationships. You're maybe, if you are in a relationship, it could be the time when you're feeling a lack of spark and maybe things feel a little bit stagnant. And so the retrograde will urge you to look back at what once got you excited, at the passions and hobbies that once got you excited. So it could be a great time to bring back an old creative project. Like I mentioned already, having to address some issues involving children, maybe a child going through some type of confusing period in life and you're there to help them. And then from the 14th until the 28th of August, when the retrograde is in the 4th house, there might be like a very separate issue that involves family, home, living situation, real estate, land that you are addressing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's like a leak in your bathroom that you need to fix, or you are looking at the homes you want to buy, you're maybe even traveling back to a place you once lived, or you're going down memory lane and sort of remembering your childhood, remembering your family, remembering your past, and maybe looking for a chance to heal, right? But there is definitely connection between the house of pleasure and the house of home, family, living situation, because of course if everything is neat and tidy and great at home, it's easier to have fun, right? And so the retrograde might encourage you to connect those two, like to make inner changes and outer changes to home, family, and living situations so that you can have more joy in the outer life. But watch out for exes. If you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to look at your natal chart, your year to come, your relationship, and more. If you are the lovely Gemini rising, the retrograde starts in your 4th house, ends in your 3rd house. So from the 4th into the 3rd, right? If we are looking at the retrograde as one story that you're dealing with for 3 weeks, maybe there is an invitation there to make changes to your everyday life, to declutter, to unpack your schedule, to streamline your schedule so that you have more peace at home. I think it's interesting because like there's a connection between your private place and your sort of quiet place and internal place, which is represented by the 4th house, and your more social life and your relationships and communication. And so maybe there is an invitation to address how your everyday life and how you communicate affects your relationships with family. Maybe a need to have some necessary conversations, right? The retrograde does begin in the 4th house. So questions around your sense of belonging, around your sense of home and comfort and security will need to be addressed. The retrograde in Virgo between the 4th and 14th might bring back some of the past issues, right? Speaking of the continuation in the 3rd, maybe things you need to talk about. It might bring up some dynamics in the family that need to be addressed, some sort of, living situation things, right? Like home problems. Like when I had this, when it was in my 4th house, like your closet might break. You might realize you're running out of space. You might realize your child is growing up and you need a bigger home for you and your child and your spouse and your 2 dogs, right? And then the retrograde moves into Leo, your 3rd house, and then you're like, okay, how can I logistically make this happen? Because the retrograde in the 3rd house is about communication. So sometimes it's about having those conversations, bringing things up, maybe not to your parents, but to your therapist. Opportunities to heal, opportunity to have healing, necessary, important conversations. But sometimes the 3rd house retrograde is about getting the supplies, getting the batteries, getting your car checked, getting your pipes checked in the house, right? It's about decluttering, it's about streamlining. So anything that involves your schedule might be highlighted. I would highly recommend, especially between 14th and 28th of August, that you get enough batteries, you sort of get the supplies, watch out for like travel delays, watch out for miscommunications are more likely, especially miscommunications with siblings, because it's once again home, family, siblings, energy, family, miscommunications. So use this as an opportunity to declutter not only your home, but also your head and your schedule. If you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to look at your chart, talk about your relationship or your year coming up. If you are the beautiful Cancer rising, Mercury is retrograding from your 3rd into your 2nd house. And if we, there's a couple of ways of looking at this. You can look at it as a continuous storyline, or you can look at it as 2 separate things. So if it's two separate things, we start in the third house between the 4th and 14th. And you might run into like a travel issue, a scheduling issue, technology breaking down, miscommunications, a sibling might be going through a difficult time. And so you may need to be the sort of, I'm missing a word right now, but like the person who like, the mediator. You might need to be the mediator. You might need to like make sure everybody gets along, help them talk things out, talk things over, maybe make some changes to your schedule. Be ready, sort of, especially between 4th and 14th, be more flexible, be ready for things to not stick to plan. So allow extra time, allow extra sort of days for the packages to be delivered if you're expecting a present for someone. And then between the 14th and the 28th, the retrograde is in your second house. So that could be a bit more about money and resources, right? So the bill, or there's a bill pops up that you forgot about. You made some money, you suddenly have to spend money. So advice for this is always watch out for spending too much. It's best sort of to be mindful and careful with resources at this time. But the two can also be very much connected, right? We go from the third, we go into the second. Third house could highlight your desire to travel, your desire to study, your desire to teach, your desire to start a business, to own your skills, to start a podcast, to change your everyday life somehow, right? And then the second house retrograde is all about resources. It's about like, do you have the resources to allow you to get there? I'm dealing with the cords from my microphone. Don't look at it. It's a bit tangled up. But yeah, like from the third into the second, what type of steps do you need to take to have more financial abundance? How can you use your skills and your knowledge in a way that brings you money? Who do you need to talk, right? Third house, communication. Who do you need to talk? Do you need to ask a sibling for help? Do you need to contact an advisor? Do you need to come up with a plan so that you can have more financial stability? Even honestly with the second house, like questions of values, questions of like, what is worth your time? What is worth your resources? What is worth your energy are going to be popping up left and right here. So yeah, watch out for major spendings. Get plenty of batteries, allow extra time, and make sure you're talking about things as they pop up. Don't let them build up to a point of frustration. Let me know how this resonates, and if you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Leo rising, the retrograde begins in your second house, goes into your first house. So this makes me think that you are maybe addressing some financial concerns. Maybe there is debts you have to pay off. Maybe there's investments you have to make. Maybe there is sort of research you need to do around money, around also your priorities, right? With the second house representing values and what makes you feel valued before you change yourself. Because between the 4th and the 14th, the retrograde is in your second house. And maybe it's not about your identity, but maybe it's just like a separate financial concern that you're dealing with, or an investment you're making, or you're helping someone figure out their finances. And then the part from the 14th until the 28th, when Mercury is retrograde in Leo, maybe then you're thinking about your identity and your goals. So the two parts of the retrograde could be separate, or they could be connected. I'm sort of more inclined to think that it's likely to be connected, because we're going from your house of money and values into your house of identity. So I think, with the sun being in Leo, with the new moon on the 4th in Leo, it is all about who you are and who you want to be, and sort of what you want to be known for. So I think the fact that the retrograde begins in the second house and goes into the first, it's like, what is the best way to manage your resources? What is the best way to manage your time? What do you need to invest into? Maybe you need to take a class. Maybe you need to change your wardrobe. Maybe you need to hire a branding advisor or some kind of manager, or like something else, that helps you get to your goals. Maybe you need to invest into a fitness trainer, or start a savings account so that you can feel more free to reach your goals. I can see here as well. The second half of the retrograde between the 14th and the 28th in your first house could also be the time when you are questioning your look, questioning your style, questioning your skincare, and maybe figuring out ways to update those, right? Because the retrograde also looks at your 7th house. I wonder if there is not a little bit of questioning of like, who am I in relationships? How do I show up in relationships? And maybe some important adjustments involving that. Let me know how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Virgo rising, the retrograde begins in your first house, goes into your 12th house. So there could be 2 separate chapters between the 4th of August and the 14th of August. It's in the first house. You're questioning your identity. You're wondering whether you're happy with your style, your hairstyle, your skincare. You're maybe feeling a little bit insecure about who you are and what you want. And then the second part of the retrograde between the 14th and the 28th is in your 12th house, and there might be, you know, a relationship from the past, an ex coming into your life, some kind of unresolved trauma that you're dealing with, some type of like healing you need to do, even some type of imaginative creative project that needs your attention, spiritual project, a journey to a faraway place that you have planned out. Maybe you're going to a spiritual retreat. However, the two are also as likely to be connected, right? If we're starting the retrograde in the first house of identity, and you are wondering and asking yourself questions of like, who am I? What makes me happy? What makes me joyful? And then Mercury goes retrograde in the 12th house. The answers might come from spirituality, from doing work that helps other people, that heals other people. The answers might involve healing of you. They might sort of bring attention to things that you haven't processed yet. There might be, you know, some self-defeating tendencies you need to address, some bad habits that you need to address, something that is like affecting your confidence that is not as easy to analyze. 12th houses are blind spots. So the first half of this retrograde might feel like you're just feeling a little lost. And then the second half, especially the Cazimi on August 18th, might bring you some answers. It might hopefully bring some clarity and self-understanding, but it is likely that the answer to the questions you're asking will be a bit more complicated than you would like it to be or you would imagine it to be. If you're looking for a personal reading, you want some help understanding yourself, your natal chart, talking about your year to come or your relationship, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. And for you as a Virgo rising, I highly, highly recommend my Mercury in Virgo candle. There's only 4 of these left, so jump on it. Get yourself one to help deal with the retrograde and help with clarity, communication, and self-understanding. If you are the beautiful Libra rising, the retrograde moves between your 12th house and your 11th house. And there are 2 parts to it, so they could bring up 2 separate issues, right? The first half between August 4th and 14th, being in the 12th house, might draw attention to your self-defeating tendencies, your blind spots, encourage healing, highlight your spiritual life, maybe bring attention to the fact that you need more meditation, that you need more yoga, more journaling, something to center and ground yourself. And then the second half of the retrograde between the 14th and the 28th could bring up friendship challenges, social media mishaps, communication issues with friends or communication issues on social media. Could be the time when a friend is going through a more difficult time. A friend might be struggling with a sense of like identity loss and confusion and, you know, some type of lack of maybe they just lost their job, or they're going back to the place they once lived. You know, some type of like friendship drama is possible. Or the 2 can be connected, right? The 2 can be very much connected. Since we start in the 12th, go into the 11th. The question might be, what self-defeating habits, what sort of destructive tendencies are lurking in your blind spot scrolling too much on social media, going to bed too late, talking to yourself negatively when you mess up, being very critical of yourself, or, you know, being too adjusting, saying I'm sorry too fast, right? That is also quite possible. You are a Libra rising after all. You care about peace and you want to get along with people. Where are you letting people walk over you? So then when the retrograde goes into 11th, you are more clear in terms of which ones of those habits are messing with your relationships, and maybe you're becoming more aware of what changes need to be made in your friendships, or you're realizing which ones of those habits are blocking your growth, right? Like maybe you have a dream, but your teacher back when you were a kid told you it's not going to happen, and you repeat it to yourself, and instead of taking action and bringing sort of your passion into the world, you backtrack and doubt and second guess. So maybe the retrograde is the time to release all of those like unhealthy habits. It can also be the time when you are bringing something from your hidden blind spot, but something more positive into the world. You bring your fears, you bring your passions, your spiritual interests, and you tell the story. You tell a story about them on social media. You share something, right? Like you make something unconscious conscious, and in the process help other people. Please share how this resonates, and if you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Scorpio rising, the Mercury retrograde will start in your 11th and go into your 10th house. And it could be two separate matters, right? Two separate houses. So between the 4th and 14th, the retrograde is in your 11th. Maybe a friend is going through a difficult time. Maybe there is a miscommunication with a friend, or a sense that you've outgrown some of your friendships, or maybe there is some kind of group project disagreement. Like if you're in college, you're working on a project with your classmates, something gets messed up and you need to mediate, you need to navigate. And then the second half, between the 14th and the 28th of August, when Mercury is retrograde in the 10th, you may be dealing with some work issues, some miscommunications with your boss, maybe projects that you thought you were done with coming back for another round, needing another round of your attention. Maybe you're going back to an old job, right? It's Mercury retrograde, or a job you've applied for like 6 months ago and it didn't work out, but now you hear back from them, or you see they're posting again and you're sort of reviewing that, revisiting that idea of working for that company. Or the two can be connected. The two houses can be connected by that retrograde of Mercury. And you are, maybe, you know, it starts off in the 11th house and you were focusing on some kind of project or on some kind of like new beginning, new dream, new friendship, new social media, new sort of visibility. But then it slows down. But then you run into like a friend drops out. There is a sense of like, is that what I want? Maybe some resources you need, some type of like slow down, miscommunications with people, networking challenges, and then you are, and that sort of leads to you rethinking your underlying goal and rethinking your professional aspirations, right? There might also be with the two of these houses being connected, maybe you're rethinking your network and you're rethinking who in your network can help you reach your professional goal. And maybe having to do some networking, having to do some communicating and clearing of any challenges in friendships in order to have more headspace or more resources necessary for your professional success. But yeah, watch out for miscommunications with friends, bosses, delays of your dreams, delays of some work projects that need to be addressed. If you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are the beautiful Sagittarius rising, the retrograde begins in your 10th, goes into your 9th. And so very literally, you know, if we're looking at the two as one storyline, starts on the 10th, goes into the 9th. You feel somehow uncertain at work, whether it is because you're not sure if what you do for work is making you happy and if it's fulfilling your dreams. So looking back is quite possible, where you are reviewing, rethinking, and being like, you know, maybe I need to go study something. Maybe I need to sign up for a course. Maybe I need to go back to school, go back to college. That is very much a possibility here. Being uncertain about work because maybe you like your job, but you feel like you want to upgrade your qualification. And so with Mercury retrograding in the 9th house, you once again go back to school, or you travel somewhere with the goal of gaining the knowledge that's necessary for your job, or you need to deal with some kind of legal matters. Even honestly, getting visas with the retrograde entering the 9th house, dealing with visas, dealing with immigration, lawyers, something that is once again maybe necessary for your professional success, I can see here for sure. Yeah, like you know, the retrograde between the 4th and 14th when it's in Virgo could also be two separate issues, right? Maybe the first half of it is you addressing professional miscommunications, misunderstandings, projects slowing down, having to redo some of the work. And then the second half between the 14th and the 28th, maybe you're on vacation at that point and you're traveling and you're going back to a place you once were, or also dealing with some kind of like ideological disagreements, questioning your beliefs, questioning your place in the world. So separate or connected. I think they will definitely be connected eventually, because Mercury will then once again go into your 10th house. So I think you're questioning your beliefs, you're questioning your education, you're even on some level questioning your location. Are you in the right location for the full-blown sort of professional success, or do you need to change something with this retrograde? Let me know how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are the beautiful Capricorn rising, the retrograde begins in your 9th house, goes into your 8th house. So you're maybe looking at resources, finances, loans, debts, taxes, agreements, alliances that are necessary to move, that are necessary to write. Maybe, you know, with the retrograde in the 9th house, you are looking at a writing project. Necessary to sort of publish your work. Yeah, like move, write, study. This could be the time when you are reviewing some kind of matters involving a student loan, involving scholarships. I think it's like the retrograde in the 9th might suggest the first half between the 4th and the 14th, that you are, you know, you've been maybe like applying for education, or you've been studying, or you've been writing and maybe teaching, and then something slows down, something kind of delays or breaks down, and you have to deal with those like financial questions, with the second half of the retrograde being in the 8th house, the house of resources. There might also be questions around like fairness and money coming up to light, because, you know, if you've been taking care, let's say, of your spouse or your older child, and you feel like you're not getting recognition, the retrograde, the second half between the 14th and the 28th, and the 8th house could be the time that you like need to have some conversations like, hey, I don't think this is fair, or talk to your business partner about money, about who gets paid what. There might also be some sort of legal matters that you're addressing involving inheritance or your partner's money, or some kind of shared property that need to be sort of brought up to your attention as well. And like, yeah, like I can see this both sort of very much money, scholarships, debts, taxes, or a little bit more spiritual, because we're going from the 9th into the 8th, and sometimes you're maybe questioning what kind of outdated beliefs are blocking your growth, what type of like eighth house, karmic dependencies, karmic agreements that you are having to address. Watch out for making like important big financial decisions at this time. This time is best used to do the planning, to do the digging and the research, but maybe wait to make a big investment until Mercury goes retrograde on the 28th. Let me know how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are the lovely Aquarius rising, the retrograde of Mercury begins in your 8th house and wraps up in the 7th house. So this feels very relationship oriented, right? Like there definitely a situation in which you can be dealing with two separate issues. In the first half of the retrograde between the 4th and 14th is about money. You're paying off debts, you're dealing with a mortgage, you're dealing with scholarships and some type of financial institutions. And then the second half between the 14th and the 28th is the time when the relationship maybe feels a little bit uncertain, or you're miscommunicating with your significant other, or an ex comes back around, right? The retrograde in the 7th house between the 14th and the 28th, someone from the past may definitely return and make themselves known. Or the two can be connected, right? We started in the 8th, we go into the 7th. Do you need to talk about money with your partner, right? Do you have some type of things you're not discussing that maybe you need to talk about? Do you need to start a joint bank account? Do you need to come up with a plan in terms of paying off bills or paying off some kind of debt you have together? The 8th house retrograde can also bring up topics around fairness, and 8th house is the dark house for a reason, right? Like it's hard to talk about things in the 8th house because sometimes it's just a feeling you get that something isn't fair, right? It's really hard to be like, well, this is how I feel and that's it, right? You can talk that way, but it is highly unlikely that the person you're talking to will just take it as a given. So with the retrograde in the 8th, you are very much getting to dive deep into the give and take dynamics. Maybe it's in your relationship, in your romantic relationship, in your marriage. Maybe it's between you and your business partner. Maybe it's between you and your accountant, right? Something is not quite working out, and you have to talk about it. And then the retrograde moving into the 7th house is like, I think, kind of similar thing. It's like what kind of conversations you need to have to make a relationship more successful, to have more agreement, more understanding, more peace, and sort of joy in the relationship. Watch out for those exes. Be careful taking them back, especially if the relationship is toxic. But I know that sometimes, we as people need one final round or 15 to understand that the relationship wasn't right for us. If you're looking for more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also pick up a candle. For example, Mercury Kazemi could be perfect for you. As an Aquarius rising, this is Mercury in Gemini, so it can help with clarity, communication, and self-understanding or understanding in relationships. Last but not least, if you are the beautiful Pisces rising, the retrograde goes from your 7th into the 6th. And so immediately I am thinking, what kind of rituals and routines and sort of practical daily grind type things need to change in your relationship, right? We start in the 7th house of relationship and we go into the 6th house of problem solving, paying bills, doing laundry, buying groceries. So on some level, it might suggest that there is some type of disagreement, discord in your relationship because one or both of you do not agree with how things done in the mundane everyday life. So having to have conversations about those things is likely. Dealing with health issues of your own or your partner is also a possibility here, where maybe you or your partner has been going through a tough time because of health, or even like because of work stress or some other kind of pressures that are making them a little bit harder to deal with. So addressing that is quite likely. Like relationship challenges that need attention and better organization is something I think might come up, right? Because Things are easy sometimes, but most of the time they require work, and relationships require work. They require careful planning and understanding and negotiating. And so this retrograde might be the time when you have to like address and negotiate and talk about things that are not so glamorous, but very much necessary for a relationship. If you're single, the first half of the retrograde between the 4th and 14th could bring an ex back into your life. Someone from your past is quite likely to knock on your door. As always, be careful. Do not rush to take someone in just because you feel lonely. For those in relationships, exes might be coming back around too. Might also suggest that your partner is dealing with some kind of challenge and issue. You know, maybe they're feeling confused or uninspired, burned out, and things like that, and that is affecting your pleasure in a relationship, your joy from spending time with them, because if they are a buzzkill, it's hard to be joyful sometimes, right? We are very dependent on each other. We're social creatures. And so the second half of the retrograde between August 14th and 28th might have nothing to do with the relationship too. There's also a chance that this is just some kind of like health matter that you're addressing, some sort of legal issue you're dealing with, or something that feels like the grind that you're working through. Let me know how this resonates. If you're looking for more, you want a personal consultation, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Highly recommend my Mercury in Virgo candle for you guys, because it falls in your 7th house of relationships, and it can help communicate better, smooth out any issues, negotiate, sign contracts, and get sort of fair agreements with other people. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Mercury retrograde is always fun. Personally, I do not hate it because I think it's a good time to slow down and enjoy a bit of a quieter pace to life. Nothing's wrong with that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Press that like button, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.